Do you remember those tiny 5-year-olds who made headlines 13 years ago? Five little miracles who fought against everything. You won't believe how much they've grown. Their journey from fragile newborns to amazing teenagers will leave you speechless. Varvara Artemkina's life has changed forever. At just 26 weeks pregnant, she carried not one, but as many as 5 precious lives. She had no idea that her world was about to be turned upside down. The journey began a few months earlier during a routine ultrasound examination. The lab assistant's eyes widened in disbelief as she ran her wand over Varvara's stomach. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 distinct heartbeats appeared on the screen. Doctors were stunned when they first saw 5 embryos on ultrasound, which was a truly unique event. Varvara and her husband Dmitri were overwhelmed with a mixture of joy and fear. Carrying such a multiple pregnancy is not easy. First of all, a woman's body is under a tremendous burden. The expectant mother was offered to keep only 3 children so that her pregnancy would be less risky, but after much thought and prayer, the couple decided to keep all 5. The following months were filled with doctor visits, careful monitoring, and preparations for their suddenly enlarged family. Varvara's body was changing rapidly, her petite figure straining under the weight of 5 growing babies. Despite the difficulties, she was still determined to carry her 5 babies as long as possible. On Tuesday morning, a sharp, sudden pain shot through Varvara's body, causing her to freeze in panic. Her hand instinctively darted to her swollen stomach as it dawned on her. Something was wrong. It was still too early for children to be born, but her body was clearly starting to tense up. In that terrible moment, Varvara realized that she had to act quickly to save her unborn 5 babies. "Dima! Hey!" she called, trying to keep her voice steady. "I think it's time!" Dmitri Artemkin burst into the room. He turned around when he saw his wife's worried expression. They got down to business quickly, their hearts racing. Varvara grabbed a pre-packed hospital bag, while Dmitri packed the last things. The weight of 5 lives and countless unknown events weighed heavily on their minds. In the blink of an eye, they were in a car speeding towards the hospital. On the way, Varvara whispered prayers, begging that everything would be all right with her babies. Dmitri's knuckles gripping the steering wheel turned white. His gaze darted between the road and his wife. As soon as they arrived, doctors and nurses surrounded Varvara. There was a commotion in the room, machines beeping and people shouting instructions. Dmitri held his wife's hand tightly, feeling helpless, watching the work of the medical team. In the chaos, doctors quickly came to the conclusion that a natural birth would be too risky for both Varvara and her 5 precious babies. Without hesitation, the decision was made to have an emergency cesarean section. They informed Dmitri of their decision, and he agreed with them. In the confusion, Varvara was rushed to the operating room. The sterile room was flooded with bright light, and the doctors and nurses moved with practiced precision. Dmitri, dressed in a medical uniform, stood next to his wife, encouraging her with words. A team of surgeons carefully treated Varvara's abdominal cavity and uterus. Time seemed to stand still while everyone waited for the first glimpse of a new life. Suddenly, a soft cry filled the air. The surgeon announced that child A had been released. 4 more screams followed, and each child was carefully picked up. The intensive care unit team quickly delivered each newborn for emergency treatment. When the last child was born, tears of joy and relief flowed down Dmitri's face. The surgical team quickly closed the incision to ensure Varvara's recovery. In the post-operative ward, exhausted but happy, Varvara and Dmitri listened as the medical staff talked about the condition of her 5 children. Despite the fact that all 5 babies were tiny and fragile, they fought with all their might. Each newborn was incredibly small, just over the size of a palm, with delicate facial features indicative of premature birth. Dmitri stood by his wife's bedside, holding her hand tightly. He watched as his daughters were placed in a specialized incubator. The air was filled with the rhythmic beeping of the machines that kept his babies alive. For a few weeks, the hospital became their second home. Varvara and Dmitri spent every free minute at the incubators, whispering with their girls, singing lullabies, and praying for them to get stronger. Slowly but surely, the babies began to gain weight and breathe on their own. It wasn't easy. There were scary moments when the alarm went off and the doctors rushed in. But despite all this, the five Artemkins have shown that they are fighters. They were getting stronger every day, and everyone was amazed at their progress. The news about the five babies spread quickly. People all over Russia and even in other countries were fascinated by their story. When the day finally came when the family went home, they were surprised to find a crowd of well-wishers waiting for them. The city has prepared a special gift for the Artemkins, a large four-room apartment. She was perfect for their growing family, and when they settled into their new home, Varvara and Dmitri realized that their adventures were just beginning. Caring for five babies at the same time was something Varvara and Dmitri had never experienced before, and their days turned into a carefully planned routine of feedings, diaper changes, and rare moments of relaxation. They quickly realized that teamwork was necessary for their survival. The feeding time was incredibly difficult. Since five hungry mouths had to be fed every few hours, Varvara and Dmitri developed a system. They laid all five babies on a special feeding pillow. Varvara breastfed two at a time, while Dmitri fed the others with milk from a bottle. This process could take a few minutes, but only so that soon they could start all over again. Sleep had become a luxury they rarely could afford. The babies' schedules rarely matched, which meant that the child was almost always awake and in need of attention. Varvara and Dmitri took turns sleeping, often in shifts, so that there was always someone who could look after the kids. Despite their fatigue, they both cherished the moments of silence when all five girls were sleeping peacefully. As the girls got older, things got more complicated. The preparation of the five kids for the new school day was chaotic. Before they knew it, it was time for the first day of school for the five kids. Varvara and Dmitri stood at the school gates, holding hands, and watched their five little girls enter the school together. It was a moment of pride, but at the same time a little scary. How will other children react to them? Will they be able to make friends? They had nothing to worry about. The Artemkin sisters quickly became the stars of their class. Their unique bond charmed their classmates, and soon the girls made many friends. Of course, there were some difficult moments. One particularly unpleasant incident occurred when three sisters were transferred to one class and the other two to another. On the first day, the separation caused anxiety and tears, as the girls were used to always being together. Parents and teachers had to put a lot of effort into helping the five little girls get used to spending time apart during school hours. It took several weeks, but eventually the girls adapted, learning to combine their individual experiences with their special bond as five. As the years passed, the characters of the girls began to reveal themselves. Each of the five had their own unique interests and character traits. One of them became a natural leader and always took care of her sisters. Another discovered a love of drawing. One of the sisters was a comedian in the family. She always made everyone laugh. The other was the quiet one, the happiest, with her nose in a book. One of the girls had an angelic voice, and she charmed everyone with her singing. When the five kids turned 7, Varvara and Dmitri decided it was time for a special trip. They were going to visit the hospital where the girls were born. It was a great adventure for the family. When we entered the hospital, it was as if we had been transported back in time. They were greeted by the same doctors and nurses who took care of the girls when they were little. When the medical team saw how much the five kids had grown, they hugged and burst into tears of happiness. "We've never forgotten you," one of the nurses said, smiling at the girls. "You were our little miracles." The trip opened the eyes of 5 little girls. For the first time, they truly realized how special their story was. They saw photos of themselves as young children hooked up to cars. This made them appreciate even more how far they had come. At home, life continued. The girls enthusiastically immersed themselves in their studies and their hobbies. Every Sunday, the whole family gathered at the church. The girls liked to sing in the choir. Their voices were perfectly combined with each other. A big change occurred when Dmitri, the girl's father, became a priest. It was something he had wanted to do for a long time. The five girls were very proud to see their father standing in front of the church and leading the service. As the girls grew up, they began to face new challenges. Sometimes people stared at them when they went outside together. Other children at school would ask curious questions or make sarcastic remarks. Sometimes it wasn't easy to be different from others, but the Artemkin sisters had a secret weapon. When one of them was sick, the others were always there to cheer her up. They supported each other, no matter what. Their bond was unbreakable. Varvara and Dmitri worked hard to keep their family strong. They had special family evenings when they played games or watched movies together. Every summer they went on vacation, exploring new places and collecting memories. When the five artists turn 13, they grow into amazing young women. They are no longer little girls, but teenagers with dreams and plans for the future. They all look as beautiful as they did at birth. But now their personalities are the focus of people's attention. Each of the girls has their own aspirations. One of them wants to become a doctor, inspired by those who saved her life when she was a child. Another one dreams of becoming an artist. Her talent has already been recognized by teachers, and one sister dreams of becoming a comedian because she likes to make people laugh for a living. Another one dreams of becoming a writer and is already working on her first novel. And one of the five girls dreams of becoming a singer. Her beautiful voice fascinates everyone who hears it. Of course, being a teenager is not always easy. Girls sometimes quarrel, like all sisters. They start paying attention to the boys, which makes their parents a little nervous. And there are all the usual teenage problems. Homework, acne, trying to figure out who you are, but despite all this, the five Artemkins stick together. They help each other with homework, give advice, and always support each other. Their house is filled with laughter, love, and sometimes a little chaos. Varvara and Dmitri look at their daughters with pride. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was worth it. Their little miracles have grown into kind, intelligent, and beautiful young women. Their journey from tiny, fragile babies to strong, confident teenagers shows that miracles do happen. It reminds us that everything is possible with love, faith, and determination. So, what does the future hold for five children? Will they be able to fulfill their dreams and become doctors, artists, comedians, writers, and singers? Or will life lead them in completely different directions? Only time can tell. One thing is for sure, they will never stop supporting each other. What a wonderful story. History. What would you do if you were told that you were expecting 5 children at once? How do you think people can help parents with many children? Share your thoughts in the comments to the next video.